Hey, yo, Josh, let me get a little bit of reverb. Yeah. J. Will. Yeah, I'm about that lifestyle. I talk green work, repping it all over. It's right on the t-shirt. Fan for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a long pass. Figure I would show some love right on the podcast. Turn this up loud and make sure you don't do nothing else. Cause if you're listening to us, then you're improving your health. My name is J. Will. Welcome to the show, yeah. Wrestle, flow, 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 yeah.
It's not Friday. It's Monday. It's a special Monday edition of Wrestling Reverb. Kevin, starting the week off hot and heavy for Reverb. We never do this.
No, this is nice. This is, it was a special occasion, and we called for the big guns. We called in some hired help for this show, and it's going to make us pop.
Start of the week means royalty, right? We have royalty here. Queenie, you haven't been on Reverb in a hot minute. You've chatted with me on the Josh Robinson show a couple of times since Reverb. It's been a while, I think.
It's been a long time, so I feel like I should just say, finally, the queen has come back.
Damn, quite the promo. Rock might sue you for that one.
Yes, honey. Well, thanks for having me back. I'm so excited. I missed you boys.
We're excited. And, it's a special edition of Wrestling Reverb on a Monday. We're going to chat some NXT Takeover in your house. Let's not waste any time with this show because we're literally recording this like 5 minutes after the show went off the air. So, I'll start with Queen. Before we get into any of the matches, the aesthetic and the feel, this 90s vibe that this show had being in your house was just the little like cherry on top of what was already going to be a fun show. So before you talk about any of the actual matches, how'd you feel about the vibe of this show?
Oh, I love the vibe. So I just recently watched for my Queen and Pops Experience show, the very first In Your House pay-per-view from 1995, honey. And that is the set. That is the set. It was such a throwback, and the grid, which of course back then wasn't fake because that's how TVs were made back then. Spoiler for those of us who weren't alive.
Sorry to ruin the dream, everybody. Ruin the illusion. Queen's out here dropping facts.
Sorry, just dropping real life because I was alive. It was great. It felt so fun, and the logo is fun. And, the old school promos and Triple H and Shawn Michaels and, oh my God. Whoa.
Todd,
I just had
his face?
Blank.
Todd,
yep.
What's his face? Penn and something. I can't pronounce his last
Thank
name.
you. I can't. The last name. Thank you, Kevin.
Yes.
I'm so excited about so many things that my brain is overloading. But having that vibe and him talking and the silliness of the 90s kind of thrown in throughout the pay-per-view was such a vibe. I loved it.
Yeah, the 90s is kind of like... So here's something, Queen. I was born in 95. I was born after the first In Your House aired. So, In Your House was not something I grew up with. It's something that I watched later because it was kind of embedded in wrestling history. So you kind of go back and you study like In Your House Mind Games and St. Valentine's Day Massacre, all of that kind of stuff. There was 28 In Your House events, and this is the 28th In Your House, I should say, this takeover. So... there's a lot of history within your house, and that name just holds so much value. And I think the 90s, I'm glad you said silly, because I find the 90s kind of silly, but like in a good way, in a good vibe way. Like it's just, the 90s are very like, I don't know, they're almost like, to me, the 90s are like a transitional time from like the 80s to like now, you know what I mean? Like it was that in between where stuff was changing and the world was kind of happening. But Kevin, how do you feel about the aesthetic and the vibe of the show being that 90s feel?
I loved it. I think that wrestling is at its best when it sort of leans into that little like that hokiness, the schlockiness of it. And so I love this. It looked so retro. I loved the vibe to it with Todd Pettengill and with like the Ico Pro commercial and the cookie sandwiches that looked so good. And I love that. I love how they also, you know, they still manage to capture like the NXT feel with the code orange performance right at the top of the show, because NXT has had that sort of like that punk rock vibe to it for the last couple of years now, and I'm glad they were able to maintain some of that while also bringing back the retro 90s vibes. It was like the best of both worlds, I think they had.
Yeah, it's got that NXT is that very like anti-establishment kind of deal. It's like, oh, we're not meant to like this, but we love this, and it's kind of come like that cult following feel to it. So that's what I kind of agreed, Kevin, is that they kept that feel with bringing in like the nostalgia. And honestly, wrestling, wrestling, especially in a WWE world, is very structured, and it's very like the same kind of deal. Even takeovers are all structured fairly similar, and they all look pretty much aesthetically the same. So when something's different, it adds that just that little bit of extra to make it feel a little bit different. So I love the vibe of it too. I love the feel of it, and just everything about it was just cool. The set and everything like that. So, Queen, going into this show, I know that takeovers are always, we always kind of say this, but on paper, you couldn't really argue that, you know, this was going to be anything less than a great show, I should say. So going into this, were you excited for In Your House?
I was excited for In Our House, or In My House, Your House, Our House, everyone's house. Literally, because we're all watching it from In Our House. Yeah, that's what it makes me think of too, Kev. I always expect a lot from NXT TakeOver. It's because they've set such a high bar and such a high standard that, you know, it's rare when you have a brand like this that constantly delivers on the big scale, right? Because I feel like every time we get a takeover, almost every time, your order of your favorite takeover may be in jeopardy, right?
Yes,
you may
definitely.
have switch some around, or you fall in love with a different match. I was excited for it going in because I really think the card on paper was super fire. It had some hard hitters. It had some ladies more than ever. Yes, honey. I just want to say off the top, like the fact that the women main evented a takeover and they haven't since 2015. I mean, that's a huge.
Think of that. I didn't realize that, you know, because NXT has predominantly put the women, well, before the main roster ever did, they put them in that spot. And when they said that on the show, I was like, oh, they actually haven't main evented since Sasha and Bayley did in their Iron Woman match. Like that's a pretty big, you know, gap. But that was what, 2015, I want to say.
2015.
Yeah,
that's 5 years ago, dude. It's like I didn't realize that, because women have been main eventing on such a constant level on Raw, SmackDown, WWE pay-per-views that I've kind of just like, oh, wait a minute, they haven't done so in NXT in so long. Well, not only that, Queen, the women opened up this show and they closed this show. That's probably
amazing.
Never been done. I don't think that's ever been done before. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
To be honest, I don't know. I would have to really look into it, but I would say you're more likely right than you are wrong.
And like that's just
sad,
crazy. That's a crazy thought to think. You know, that's becoming the norm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's becoming the norm. It's not. You know me, Queen. I'm a big women's wrestling fan. Kevin, you know this as well. I talk about it all the time. But
oh yeah,
I love the fact that there's first evers, but I'm so glad we're past that. And it's just like, yeah, there is a women's Money in the Bank. There is a women's Royal Rumble. Yeah, it could main event. It might not. It's whatever is better. Whatever is better at the time. It's not for, you know, the lack of a better term, but the PR of it, of going, oh, the women are in the main event. No, it's just happening. You know what I mean? It's not like they hyped up this triple threat matches. This is going to be the last match on the show. No, it's at the last match of the show because it deserves to be at the last match of the show. So I love that. And I know you probably agree. Well, both of you will probably agree with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that, and I think you make a good point. Most of the times where we see the women in the main event over the last couple of years, it has been something they've like hyped up. You know, like with when the women main event at WrestleMania, that was like the selling point for so long of the whole show. Tonight, yeah, we didn't know it was going to be the main event until like halfway through the show, and I don't think anyone was. Not surprised. I mean, I was a little surprised, but I wasn't like. I was like, oh, that makes sense. It's Io, it's Rhea, and it's Charlotte for the NXT Women's title. Like that's as big as it gets right now.
Yeah, definitely. Let's break down some of these matches here. The opening contest, of course, that big 6-woman tag match. Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez taking on Tegan Nox, which is Kevin's favorite person in the entire world. Mia Yim and Shotzi Blackheart. Queenie, 6 very talented women, 6 very different women is what I love most about the NXT women's division, is that every single woman in that division is different from one another on an aesthetic level, in an in-ring style level. Everything about these women are different, which I think is a big disconnect from what's going on the main roster. And that's not a knock on the ladies. I just think they put them into bubbles sometimes. Every woman in this match has a distinct character. They have a distinct look. They have something different. So what are your thoughts on going into this one, Queenie, with, these 6 women in particular?
I agree with you, actually. I think they all have a completely different representation of character and in-ring ability. Mm-hmm. And I was excited about it. I was happy that they were opening the show. I thought it was going to be really, really fun. Unfortunately for me, I didn't really like it as much as I think I was hoping I would. Yeah. I actually kind of thought it was a little bit sloppy in parts.
It did. No, I agree.
Yeah, and the pacing was off, and it was kind of all over the place, which happens, of course, when you're in a 6-man or woman tag.
I could imagine that the bodies you have to deal with, and I couldn't imagine like being in that and going, okay, I've got to work out this spot and this spot and this spot. But I agree with you. Yeah. It wasn't a bad match. I just think it had potential to be a lot better.
Right. It definitely had potential to be better. But I really think the shining star out of this is Shotzi Blackheart. Unsurprising for those of us who have watched her kind of in the indies and then come into NXT. This is something that we're excited about, and I'm so happy that more people are getting exposure to her. She is a lot of fun. Oh. She's so chaotic, but like in the best way. And the tank is the best. And it's awesome. I'm so glad they let her keep it. Yeah, I'm so glad they let her keep it and utilize it, and her green hair, and she stands out. She's a super big talent, and I thought really here was a time where she shone, and that was a nice thing to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see other people get opportunities. Now, Kevin, I know you're going to talk about Tegan Nox a lot, so this is your chance. She got the W in this one. The shiniest of wizards on one Dakota Kai.
You can't overlook that. You cannot overlook Tegan Nox pinning Dakota Kai. That is huge, given how their history
on their feud. I think
how long they've been fighting. They've been friends. They've been enemies. It's not something you could look past. And obviously, Tegan's great. And Tegan's story is one that I've talked about, and I loved the adversity she's fought through. So, yeah, Tegan obviously is a highlight for me, but it is hard not to talk about Shotzi. Like, as someone like me who didn't really know who she was before she came to NXT, and she rolls up in a tank, like a friggin' tank. That is... Like from there, like it honestly doesn't matter what happens next, because when you show up in a roster full of stars, and you manage to stand out on like night 1, that is crazy. That is so hard to do. And Shotzi is, and not only she's more than just the tank, she's more than just the hair. She's so good in the ring too. Like she's a lot of fun to watch. Your eye is drawn to her no matter where she is. I think that's very valuable in any business, but especially in this business, where even if you're not the center of attention, or even if you're not the main focus right now, people have their eye on you, and people are gonna have their eye on Shotzi Blackheart as she, inevitably rises all the way up the card.
Yeah, no, I can see it. And like a nice slow burn with her. I don't think you need to rush anything with Shotzi. I think she's still got a little ways to go before she's like there. But I think that nice slow burn with her is going to work out just perfectly, very organically for her. Queen, I want to break down the heel side of things of this match with you, particularly, because I know you had some... Let's rewind back to Portland, right? When this street fight was happening. We had a very big difference of opinion on that street fight match itself. You didn't really feel for it, the street fight between Dakota and Tegan. I really liked it. I think the key factor was the finish of that match. Is that correct in me saying?
Yes, I did not like that.
Okay, so how long ago was that? 3 months? 4 months?
Yes.
I don't know. It feels like 15 years since that happened.
So
15 years ago that happened, and one Raquel Gonzalez come in. How do you feel about Dakota and Raquel 15 years later?
15 years later, I still don't like them. So I mean, fair. I guess well, let me rephrase. I like Dakota Kai. I don't like Raquel. I don't really care for her. To me, it's kind of Sonya Deville light and not as good. I think she has potential, but I would rather her character take a different direction because it's too much like Sonya for me.
So
So
do you not
that's
like
the only one.
the unit of Dakota and Raquel? Do you not like
I
that
mean,
dynamic?
I just don't like her, so it kind of sours it for me. But
Right.
I mean, it's okay. I don't
Yeah.
mind Dakota having a heavy. I think that that's kind of cool and it works for her. And Raquel is filling that spot in NXT. But I just don't like her, Josh. I think that's kind of where I'm at.
No. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. I'm a big Dakota Kai fan myself, and I think she's a great
Mhm.
heel, and I think Raquel's added another layer to her, so I'm a fan of that unit. Queen, I want to ask you about Candice LeRae. I know she is... Majority would think that she's a natural babyface. How do you feel about her as a heel?
I'm loving.
Me
And
too.
because I think that it's super cool, and she reminds me of like a Disney evil queen villain type vibe, and they love Disney, her and Johnny, so
Oh, they do.
it doesn't surprise me, right, that's incorporating into her presentation both in vignette and in the ring. I love her hair. I'm interested in it more, the heel turn for her, than I am for Johnny.
Yeah.
I think it makes so much sense for her right now, and it's a
Yeah.
great spot for her to be in. And yes, she is a great baby face. And when she was in the cutest tag team ever with Joey Ryan, and
yes.
the cupcake vibes, and it's super fun. But I love when you get to see somebody like that go down such a darker path. And I
Yeah.
think her story is going to be so much more interesting than Johnny's. And I'm loving.
Yeah, cupcakes get stale. If you leave them out
They
too
do.
long, they get stale. And I think Candice was in that spot where she was becoming stale. And this is the ultimate sign to kind of start fresh, start a new batch, if you will. You know what I mean? So I'm into it. I know that inevitably, I know that she's going to be a babyface again. And I
Mhm.
don't think heel is necessarily going to be a long-term thing for both her and Johnny. We'll talk about Johnny a little bit later, but I like it for what it is right now, and I'm enjoying that she's able to show other sides of her character. So I'm enjoying it. So overall, I did like this match. I didn't love it. I thought it could have been a lot better. Queen, you kind of said the same thing. Kevin, what do you think about the match kind of overall?
Yeah, I think the match was more so just a showcase of the depth of the NXT women's division. Just
Yeah.
6 that could be just sent to the top of the card in a moment's notice, and you sort of you get it, right. It wasn't like anything groundbreaking or anything. I didn't expect it to be. I just expected it to be like a fun little hot six woman tag match to open the show. I like the finish. Obviously, we touched on that. Tegan over Dakota will pop me every time. But it was just a nice little way to get. It was a nice little way to get these really, really talented individuals some shine and get everyone and advanced stories too. And we saw a little bit later on in the night as well with Mia Yim and with Candice, and we'll touch on that later, I'm sure. But yeah, it furthered some stories. It put a nice little bow on some stories, and then I think I'm excited to see where all 6 of these women go next.
Yeah, big time. Would you agree with that, Queen?
Sure do.
Yeah. Let's move on here. Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Now, I was expecting... I was like, this one's either going to go two ways. It could be a sleeper, and it could be really, really fun, or it could be a disaster. I'm in the boat that it was really fun. They clicked really well. Queen, we have an agreement here. Finn Balor's gear, that metallic blue. Oh, baby,
Oof.
that was a good time.
Ooh, honey, listen.
Wrestling
First
fashion,
of all,
wrestling fashion.
Wrestling fashion, #wrestling fashion. Listen, first of all, that jacket, okay? He always has good jackets, but this one in particular fits him perfectly. Then he revealed that blue. Oh, yes, honey. Very good. But let's not sleep on Damian Priest's pants, because the all-white look with the mesh and the rips.
Showing off them thighs, you know?
He's showing off them thick thighs, honey, and they save lives. So I'm all about it. And this match was great.
Yes.
I was super excited for them to really meet in the ring like this at a takeover, because I loved Damian Priest when he was Punishment Martinez.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff in Ring of Honor.
A lot of people do say that.
Yeah, so much fun. And I kind of felt like this was going to be a good one. And it didn't disappoint. It was really an excellent showcase to kind of pop this pay-per-view right into high gear for what was to come next. And I just think it's excellent. I think they booked Damian to look amazingly good, even in loss. And, even Triple H is on Twitter saying this guy's money. Like, he's going places. I assume for him, North American Championship
that
area
would be the vibe, wouldn't it? That would be the
that
kind of
seems
direction.
what it is. Which I don't hate. I think that's great.
Oh,
and
no,
I think Finn, will chase the ultimate gold.
Yeah,
so
me too. And Finn to me is one of those people that you can put him in there with anybody, and you're gonna get something good to great out of everybody with Finn. That's how I feel with Finn, especially in NXT. Finn's got that kind of, I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna make any sense, but Finn to me with NXT has got that big brother vibe. And I don't mean the reality show. I mean, I mean a big brother vibe, and like he's trying to help everybody out. He's watching out for everybody, has everybody's best intentions, and I just really like Finn, to be completely honest with you. And I just want the Barber Gods to bless me and give me a Finn Balor fade with my hair. Thank you very much. Ooh. I just want that, please and thank you. It's just not happening. I mean, I think a lot of I'd be blind if I didn't want to look like Finn Balor at some stage in my life, because that'd be silly to not say it. But Kev, let's talk about that nasty stare bump. Ooh.
Oh my God. Watching, when you watch wrestling, you pretty much your whole life, you feel like you've seen everything, and you feel like you're almost immune to like big bumps and like scary looking things. You feel like you don't even flinch. I flinched so hard when he hit those steps. I was like nervous. His back just like, it was like he caught the edge a little bit, but he also just landed so heavy and so hard. It was good. And the match I loved this match, and I wasn't sure if I was going to. Damian Priest is he's really good. It's like kind of a small sample size for me.
Yeah. And
Finn is somebody that will get you there pretty much all the time. But I just wasn't sure how I was going to feel about them meeting together. I wasn't sure about the dynamic they would present together. Mm-hmm. And it was perfect. Like their chemistry was so good, so off the charts. Like Finn, he's not like the fastest. He's not like necessarily the flashiest guy you'll ever see. He's so fluid in the ring, though. Every little movement he makes is so like seamless and just looks so good. He's almost flawless in there. And I know a lot of people were thinking that Priest would get the win, and I thought he might too. But I don't hate the fact that they're clearly building Balor to be like a big threat to Adam Cole or to whoever holds the NXT title. They want Balor. They brought him down for a reason. They brought him down to sort of find himself. You can't forget about his story. He was lost in the shuffle for so long, and now he's back, and he's dangerous as all hell. And you can't discount that. So I'm interested to see where he goes from here, because he is as good as he's ever been since he came to WWE.
Yeah, I think Finn Balor is really good at making the little things look nice instead of like just worrying about like the big stuff. He makes the little things, and he kind of makes a flow of a match just go in a really nice pace. And I really like that about Finn. That's what I've always been drawn to with Finn Balor when it comes to his in the ring stuff. I think with Finn, Queen, it's like Kevin said, we can't really talk about Finn without acknowledging his story and his past. Universal Champion, getting injured, and then kind of the ups and downs he had with Raw and SmackDown, IC Champ. He had multiple kind of peaks and then really low valleys, and then coming back to NXT. Now that he come back to NXT in September, October, we're so many months out of that now. How have you felt about Finn Balor back in NXT, and do you think it's doing what it's needed to do for Finn?
I think it's doing what it needs to do for him, for sure. It's definitely better than where he was, right? Yep. And I think another thing, too, is, he brought back the Prince, right? This is what New Japan Finn Balor looked like. He was called Prince Devitt back then. Yeah. And, it's a very darker vibe. It's more of a intense Finn Balor, and it's a fun thing to see for Finn Balor. And I think that he's working a lighter schedule than he was before. And he's getting put into awesome matches with great people. And he's been a great presence, I think, overall, since his return to NXT. And I'm really happy for him, because he seems at least from what we've been, shown on TV weekly and then in takeovers and online, he seems like he's enjoying himself. And that's, I think, ultimately the most important because of how wasted he was on Raw and SmackDown. And I just feel disappointed. He had such a hot run in NXT when it first started, right? Like unbelievable, epic. And then he came up I'm not saying up. He came to the other brands and it was
up at that stage. At that stage,
up at that time. Up at that time. But
and then obviously injuries and that was
timing
was awful.
Seth Rollins. Yeah.
Damn you, Seth.
Damn you, Seth. So I feel like we're definitely in a better spot for Finn.
Yeah, definitely. Over under on the match, Queenie. How did you feel about the match overall?
It was solid for me. I thought it was excellently done. Probably like a B+ low A. It was good.
Yeah. Kevin, what's your thoughts on overall in the match?
It was really good. Honestly, when it ended, I wasn't sure if it would be topped for the rest of the night. I felt that strongly about it at the time, and I stand by that. I thought it was great. Yeah, really, really great. If I had to put a grade on, I'd probably say like A-, maybe even like a A solid.
Oh, damn! I'd give it a nice B+. Haha, B+ player. We don't want to relive that. But it's like a nice. I thought it was good. It was a lot better than I anticipated, and I'm pleasantly surprised by it. So let's move on here. I want to just address the elephant in the room with one Johnny Gargano. Okay, so did this man put a key on his ding dong?
He did.
He did. He 100% did.
Listen, speaking from a dude with a ding dong, I don't want a key there. I don't. Kevin, you can probably attest. I don't want there.
I don't want anything really going on. Like if I'm a wrestler and I'm already wearing like skimpy tights, I don't really want to like add.
I was like,
anything
Kevin, choose your words so carefully.
I know.
You did good, Kev.
Yeah, I don't want that there. However, how cool was his entrance? I really enjoyed that. Did you guys enjoy that?
I liked the sequence. Nice. I liked how it transitioned from the video package, right into the door. I thought that was really dope.
He changed it to 69. Nice. I'm a big fan of Johnny Gargano. Now, Queen, you kind of alluded to the fact of heel Candice, heel Johnny. Unleash what you think about heel Johnny.
I don't really care for heel Johnny. Now, a lot of his career elsewhere, he was a heel. And it wasn't bad. He just does the face thing so well. And it's not that I don't like when excellent faces turn. I just feel like the story for Johnny would be something different, or it would be served better as more of a dejected face, or a what do I do now type of face, as opposed to this cocky, self-righteous dude. Like, he's doing a good job. I just don't personally like it.
So I think he's just
more so it's a me thing. Yeah, it's a me thing, but I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people feel similarly into like, what is going on, and especially after this match, like, okay, now what? You made this heel turn. You made this grandiose insanity for him, and all these dinners and weird, stuff with Candice, and now what's he gonna do? So it seemed kind of strange that they were going to turn him heel and kind of push him in this direction, and then he loses. So, like, now what?
Yeah, now what? No, I get that. All right, now that we've moved on from key on the ding dong, Kevin, how do you feel about Keith Lee? What's your opinion on Keith Lee? I know we've talked about Keith Lee a lot, pretty much, well, since he's, that's time with Survivor Series and all of that stuff, and there was a lot of talk with him. How do you feel about Keith Lee in this present moment?
Keith Lee is just he's just so much fun. His person, he's got that larger than life personality about him. He's also just really, really damn good in the ring. I watched Takeover Portland like 2 days ago in his match with Dominic Dijakovic, and like it's ridiculous what he could do in the ring. And when I find out he's gonna get in the ring with Gargano, even though I'll echo what Queen's saying. I'm not super crazy about Gargano being a heel. I'm not like really into the vibe he's putting out. But you you put Gargano and Keith Lee in a match, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be like ridiculous. And yeah, that was a good match. I don't know if it was as good as. I don't know if I liked it more than Balor Priest by any stretch, but I mean Keith Lee does a lot of really cool things in the ring that you just don't see from guys his size. And for that matter, it's crazy that they have Lee, Priest, and Dijakovic like on the same roster at the same time. 3 huge dudes that are just so freakishly athletic, just all like beating the hell out of each other. Like they've had matches with each other for so long. It's so crazy to see.
Yeah, Queen, the match itself, I personally was expecting more. Now, this could just be a me thing and my expectations were too high, but were you, I hate using the word let down because it's an us thing that we do it to ourselves, but lack of a better term, were you a little bit let down by this match?
I mean, it was way more of a storytelling match than it was technical, like, precision, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like the most like Drew Gulak, Daniel Bryan type of match. It's not going to be that way.
No.
But it still was really compelling because I feel like they made up for that aspect with how they told their story and the consistency in which they told that story from bell to bell. I thought that was excellent. I really think that it was well paced also. If it had been more of a faster type of match, I think they would have done themselves a disservice. So having that storytelling, I think, kind of made it better. So I wouldn't say I was let down per se, but it definitely wasn't a Keith Lee Dijakovic match.
I think for me it was
10 times better wrestling wise.
I think for me, Gargano Lee on paper sounds, oh my God, like, holy shit, this is going to, be a barn burner. This is going to, be this great. And then while it's still very good, it just maybe was a little bit different for what I was expecting. However, the match itself could have been a lot different if the dynamics were different, if Gargano was maybe a face, if they were both faces. Like, I feel like it would have went a really different way. Now, I agree with you, Queen. It was much more storytelling than it was, that barn burner kind of stuff, which I love. I love storytelling in wrestling. It's my favorite part of wrestling. But I don't know. Something just didn't align with me here. And I think it was more so a me thing with expectations. So, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. Kev, what do you think about it overall?
I'll admit it freely. I definitely psyched myself out by thinking, like I said, but seeing on paper, I was like, well, this is going to be like the greatest. Yeah. And I think you're right. When we think about Gargano Lee as like a dream match, I think we look at it as more of just like they're just 2 really good wrestlers going at it. I don't think we thought of it in terms of story, and especially not with Gargano as a heel. So in that regard, yeah, the storytelling was on point. I thought there were a lot of like really good spots, and I thought there was a lot of really good like moments. I mentioned before, I liked Candice and Mia coming out and getting involved. The pounce through the plexiglass was cool, even though someone on Twitter, I don't know who it was, I couldn't find the tweet, but someone before the show said, calling it now, Gargano's getting pounced through the plexiglass. So I wasn't surprised when it happened. That kind of bummed me out. But there was a lot of good stuff in it. It just, I think I psyched myself out a little bit with it.
Yep. Definitely agree. Okay, let's, I think we're going to spend a little bit of time on this. The backlot brawl for the NXT Championship. Now, Velveteen Dream was to lose. He would no longer be able to challenge for the NXT Championship as long as Adam Cole is champion. I was expecting the kind of quote-unquote cinematic appeal to this match. I think that's what everyone was expecting. I think we were all expecting this to be the main event. However, after watching it, I'm glad that it wasn't. Okay. Queen, okay, here's where I disconnected from it. It was nothing on them two. They did a wonderful job. The production did not do it for me. The camera cuts were so distracting, and also the lighting hurt my eyes. This match for me was a cool down, and I hate saying that because I love Adam Cole. I think Velveteen is great. An NXT Championship match should not feel like that. But that being said, agree or disagree, Queen, I don't think it was bad. I just think it was okay.
Oh, I agree. It was like a C for me. I loved the vibe initially,
Yeah.
like the
Me
circle
too.
of
I said that to you on
cars.
Twitter, did I?
Yeah.
It was you.
Right.
I said I
Yeah.
love this, and then it just kind of maybe I jinxed it. Like there was only like one spot that I was like, that was cool. It just hurt like to watch. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it felt really. It didn't feel. Listen, I know that people say what they want to say about WWE. I'm a big WWE guy. I understand it. But their cinematic matches, the Boneyard, the Firefly, the Money in the Banks, have all been really fun. And then coming into this, it felt like a massive step back. Is that fair to say?
I think it's fair because I think the Ciampa Gargano cinematic one was terrible also.
The two NXT
Compared
ones
to the
haven't
other
been
ones.
great. Yeah.
They
Like
haven't been good.
Uh,
I think, Adam Cole coming in on the truck was cool, typical Adam Cole, and Dream coming in a Lambo looking like Negan. I thought it was cool. I thought they looked great. And then it kind of deteriorated for me after that. I
me
actually
too.
thought I didn't really mind the lights because I got what they were trying to do. I minded the sound. The sounds that they had with the cars and people slapping things and talking, I thought was way too high. And you
Yeah,
couldn't
I didn't
actually
think
like
about that.
listen to the crap talking and the shit talking between Dream and Cole. That
Def-
bothered
yeah.
me the most.
The commentary was a bit off too. I didn't feel like it was necessarily needed.
Nah, just let them fight then. See, that's the thing. It was like supposed to be like a cinematic thing, but like then why am I listening to commentary?
That was so if we
weird.
take back to Double or Nothing, right, with I don't come at me. I know I'm going to talk about AEW. I know I don't talk about it much, but I watched the Stadium Stampede match, and my biggest takeaway from that was I liked it, but it didn't need commentary. And I think here's the same. It didn't need commentary. And I think also, Queen, with the let's say the Money in the Bank cinematic style match, is that there almost is an element with the main roster cinematics that are kind of like there's serious moments, but there's also like haha moments. When this was taking itself way too seriously. Is that yeah? Do you kind of feel that as well, Queen? And then I'll move on to Kevin as well.
I think it just didn't hit right. I actually would have just preferred that they brawled in a ring regularly. No DQ, whatever. I don't care, but just in regular. I don't
had
think
all that
they
stuff. You know what I mean?
needed to do this.
You could have had all of the interference, which was an element that I liked. To be honest, was Dexter. I'm a big fan of him. I liked all that, and I liked the car bump when Adam.
Yeah,
that was nasty.
cool.
But other than that, I honestly can't think of too much that I loved. Even the finish itself fell a little bit flat.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't crazy about this, and I think that you made a really good point that with even with AJ and Taker, which you think would be like so serious, they did have some moments of like some levity in there, and just like and it's sort of like relatable almost. This one, yeah, I liked the vibe when they came out, and I thought I thought it felt gritty, I thought it felt cool, and then once it like actually started. I just noticed like the things that I liked right from the get-go were starting to become a little distracting. The lights, the sounds, but yeah, the overall seriousness of it, especially when you have a guy like Velveteen who's never really been super serious. He's always been like the animatic figure. He's always been he's never been like just like a straight up guy, and that's why that's why everybody loves him, because he's so interesting. And I feel like this wasn't interesting for him. I also thought like they had that one little spot where the Uber pulled up, and that was like a little funny, but it wasn't like, I don't know, it didn't get me that much. And then they went right back to like serious the rest of the way. Like they didn't try to incorporate anything else like that. Yeah. And the finish I thought was like I thought it was a little like abrupt and just didn't. Yeah, no, it wasn't. I don't know, it wasn't that good.
Yep, I 100% agree. Queen, final thoughts on that one?
I'd rather it didn't happen, to be honest with you. And I'm actually even happier now that they put it where they put it. Yep. So we have these next two to kind of forget all about it.
Yeah, and that's not something we often say about Adam Cole or Velveteen, to be honest. They always
I love them both, but
me too. And you know what? That happens sometimes. This isn't a knock on NXT. This isn't dragging NXT. It's just they tried something, and honestly, it just didn't work. Let's move on. That's how I kind of am on that. It could have been a lot worse, trust me, but it could have been way, way better. It could have been way better.
We're also just so used to like these classic NXT championship matches that going away from that formula was probably not going to sit well with a lot of people, no matter what happened.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Also, I think we've seen a lot of cinematic matches across mainstream
Yeah, it's been a
wrestling,
lot.
and that was the biggest. Even like both companies that are still, mainstream companies, they've both done it. And I think maybe we're getting a little tired of the formula. Maybe it's, time to take a step back from that and just take a little bit of a break, because when you do something too much, no matter how good it is, it becomes stale. So that's my kind of thoughts on that match. It was just adequately fine. On another gear, can we talk about the kind of, before we move on to the last two matches here, Queen, I know you'll have a lot to say on this. The opening with Code Orange was so fucking cool, and I was just really into it. How'd you feel about that kind of... How do you feel about wrestling opening up with a live band?
I feel like it works in NXT to open with a live band. I feel like it sits so well in their pocket because of that vibe that NXT has always had. They've always been on the outside. They've always had that punk rock feel, that
ECW
indie
vibe,
feel.
isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Cult-like.
It's got a very specific following and a very specific fan base, and it's a lot of loyalty in there, and a lot of their music has been, for their takeovers or their whatever, have been rock songs. So it felt really good. I like when the other two brands, or like a Mania, will pull a band in for something special.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for Takeover, I like to see the band do that. It was a nice way to get us hyped. And, you heard the song that's associated with the show, and it was fun.
Yeah. Kevin, how'd you feel about the opening with Code Orange?
I genuinely enjoy Code Orange. I was introduced to them through WWE. I had never heard of them before. Started doing something. They did Aleister Black's song. They did a couple of the Takeover themes. I think they're very good, and I think it's just funny that like we go from the Takeover shows with Code Orange, like this really punk rock, like dirty, gritty band, and then we're gonna have Backlash coming up where the theme song is from The Greatest Showman.
I think
nothing highlights the difference between NXT and the quote unquote main roster more than that.
I'm not even going to touch that. Let's move on to Tommaso Ciampa and Karrion Kross with the lovely Scarlett. Woohoo! She looked very nice.
Beyond very nice.
She looked very good. Scarlett is a very beautiful woman. I'll just leave it at that. Oh man, that entrance, guys. That Karrion Kross entrance is something else. That first time I seen that in NXT, a month ago, gave me damn goosebumps. It really did. I was like, this is cool. That man is going to be huge in NXT. Queen, how do you feel about Kross's month or so in NXT, and just what he could actually be to NXT?
Oh, he's going to take over, pun intended, literally.
Funny
think
lady.
That he is. He's the next big thing, but like more so than like the normal next big thing. I think that he's going to rule over the NXT men's roster for quite some time. I've loved Killer Kross and now Karrion Kross, and him and Charlotte, the Scarlett, the Killer Smoke show. It's good stuff, man.
Yep.
And the entrance is great. It's very theatrical. It's very character driven and intense, which I love.
Turn it up to 11. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
oh my God.
turn it up, because it's something I feel NXT is missing. Dream has it, but he hasn't been really doing it. Mm-hmm. And nobody really is on that same level as Karrion Kross is. And I feel like that brings such a special thing to NXT. And, they're going to put a rocket on him, Josh and Kevin. I think they really are. I think he's going to be in a title scene very soon. And I don't think that's a mistake. I think that's a very, very good thing. I think it's going to elevate everyone in that roster, in that division. Not that they need elevation, but I mean, like,
No.
everyone's going to be
It's
a very competitive situation. Yeah.
It's funny you talk about with NXT and this isn't a knock. I love NXT. Everyone knows that. Everyone loves NXT. But a lot of the characters can blend into one another. And I think the difference between NXT and, say, the main roster in some aspects, not in all aspects, is that they have big characters. When NXT is a lot more of the nitty-gritty, like wrestling kind of. If you can wrestle, you're going to kind of work in NXT, with the exception of other things. And I'm not saying there isn't characters, but I just think with someone like him, he is very extra in the best way possible. It's very big. It feels bigger than NXT in the best way possible. I love the aesthetic of it. I love the feel. There's a different vibe with him even before he even starts wrestling. I'm talking about it is like there's a different vibe with him. So going into this, it's like it's someone who, arguably, with the exception maybe of Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa is NXT. He is the black and gold brand. He bleeds NXT. So it's like NXT versus this newcomer who's coming into NXT, who eventually will be NXT. It's just a cool little dynamic of styles. Kev, this match was just designed to make Cross look like a killer without, completely shitting all over Ciampa, which I love the kind of aspect of that. He still got his little stuff in, and then we went with Cross. But how'd you feel about the match, Kev?
I thought it was like one of the best little bits of business NXT's done in so long. Killer Cross, Karrion Kross, whatever you want to call him, he just explodes off the screen. Mm-hmm. And so does Scarlett, for that matter. Like, it's rare you see a package like those two where both of them are the star. Both of them have so much like charisma and that it factor you hear about. Just oozes off them. It's crazy. From the minute that music hits and they appear at the top, through the pinfall, through the submission, through the end of the match, like that, it's crazy. I thought this was so well done. Like it is. Yeah, you're right. Tommaso Ciampa is one of the pillars of NXT. Like, he's one of the guys, when you think of NXT, you associate him with it. And Cross ran through him like he was nothing. Ciampa got his moments, and it wasn't a total squash, but it was just like, at no point did Ciampa feel like he was gonna win. Cross is a different animal in there. That at one point I forget what movie hit, but he just screamed, and I was like a little scared. I was a little nervous. I didn't know what was gonna happen to Ciampa after that. This guy is a different animal. You could literally put the belt on him on the next episode of NXT, and I would be like, well, that's pretty smart.
Yeah. He is very, very good. The match, I agree with you, Kevin. Very good piece of business, and just it did what it needed to do. Queenie, how'd you feel about the match overall?
Thought it was great. They definitely have established Cross as a dominating force. No questions there. He looked excellent. The only thing that was a little strange to me is, as a huge Tommaso Ciampa fan, watching him not really get any offense in is really weird. It's really weird.
It's odd.
It threw me off. I was like, whoa. Okay, super strange, which just doubles down on our point, right, guys, that they're going to put a rocket on him.
Clearly not to.
It'd be silly not to, but if you're going to do that and it's Ciampa, one of your pillars of NXT, then that they mean business with him, and it's only big up things for Karrion Kross and Scarlett going forward.
Big mood on that. I'm very much here for it. I tweeted out, I've said it many times, within 6 months' time, I think that man is going to be NXT champion. I genuinely believe that, and I don't think it's too fast. I think it's perfect timing. I think he's going to be the one to beat Adam Cole. I think that's going to be the person to do it. Personally, that's how I feel. But I thought it was good, and I enjoyed it a lot, and it got us to where our main event. Charlotte Flair, the then current NXT Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley, and Io Shirai. Main event, big fight feel, as Michael Cole would say, but it did feel like that. The video package going into it, the entrances, the pre-introductions, everything, it felt really big. I really appreciated about that. Now, I know a lot of people have their opinions on Charlotte Flair, but they did say the statistics, and I know some people are going to say it's because she shoved down our throats. whatever you want to say, 66 championship matches Charlotte Flair has been in. That is an incredible feat.
That is staggering.
What?
It's amazing.
6 years? 6 years she's been wrestling, I want to say. If that.
I think it's 7.
7
I
years
think
is
so.
not a long time to be wrestling.
Not a long at all.
And you have 66 championship matches. Now, again, anyone can say what they will, whether she's been over pushed or she's whatever people want to say. That is a statistic that not a lot of people will catch. Not a lot of people will catch. And she is a superstar. I'm a big Charlotte Flair mark. I understand that. But I think she is not just one of the best females in the company. I think she's one of the best in the company. On a star level, on just her in-ring work, she's very, very good. And I think sometimes people do get a little bit clouded with her, and I understand. Queen, I know you have your own opinions on Charlotte Flair, but the 66 championships matches is not something you can really argue with, is it?
No, you definitely can't. And I am not in the camp that she only gets what she gets because of her dad. Now, does a name like that and lineage like that open doors? Sure, it does. Of course. We're not stupid.
But who would be silly?
But
it'd be silly not to take that opportunity, wouldn't you, Queen?
Well, of course, if that's what you want to do, obviously. But I don't believe that the only reason is that. I think she's actually extremely talented. She's one of the stables in the ring. You can count on Charlotte Flair in the big money matches. You could put Charlotte Flair with nearly anyone, and it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And she's really put in that work. She really has. You can't really deny that, especially since she's moved to NXT. She's been on all 3 shows, doing all this crazy stuff, which good for her. But I will tell you, the one person she doesn't have chemistry with is Io Shirai. Let me tell you that right now. Okay, Charlotte looked sloppy in this thing for me. There are moments where she looked strong and in charge, and other moments, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, does she know she's in a match? Like, what are we doing? It was very weird. I didn't like that at all. I don't think her and Io really go together, and that's cool.
And that happens, doesn't it? Sometimes
it does.
two
Like Becky
incredible
and Lacey
talents
don't go together.
Yeah,
it just
like
doesn't
two
work.
incredible talents sometimes just
Right.
don't gel.
That's
And it
right, and that's real life too. It's real life. It
Yeah.
happens. But I do think that Io and Rhea have great chemistry, but more so Rhea and Charlotte have excellent in-ring
they do.
chemistry together. I just
That was
think
the
that
glue,
they work
I think,
so well.
that held this
Yeah.
together. Because I thought the match was really good. I really did. I thought it was a great main event. But the glue that kind of kept that show going, and this is no disrespect to Io, because she had some great stuff in there with Rhea, but Rhea and Charlotte's time together worked best in this match.
Right, and that's not to say that I'm not excited for Io Shirai. I am
either.
so
Me either.
happy that she is the new NXT Women's Champion. I have other stuff to say about the future down the line, but I think for her, this is wonderful. And the fact that we have Io Shirai as the Women's Champion on NXT, Asuka as the Women's Champion on Raw, and Hikaru Shida as the Women's Champion in AEW is unbelievable.
JPQ is somewhere
living.
right now just having like a glass of champagne. Like, watch stardom, bitches. Like, come on.
I know.
I'm a big fan of all 3 women. Obviously, there's a connection to Rhea Ripley because I will never get tired of hearing Adelaide, South Australia being said but from a WWE ring announcer. That's mind-boggling to me that she's a year younger than I am and she's in the WWE. That is absolutely wild to me. So I'll never, ever get tired of ever. Io is, I think, I've said this, Kevin, you've heard me say this like it's like written on the back of my hand. Io Shirai is the best wrestler in the world. Gender is not an equation in this. It is just, she's the best. I just think she is the best. And Charlotte Flair is Charlotte Flair. She's a superstar. She's a queen. She is that. She's that good. Very much happy for Io. I enjoyed the match a lot. There was some spots, like Queen said, that were a little bit... There was one noticeable spot with Io and Charlotte was the Hurricane Runner on the outside. It seemed like Io did the Hurricane Runner and then Charlotte took the bump like 5 seconds later. And it happens. I understand wires get crossed. And it wasn't overshadowing... Those few little kind of moments within that didn't overshadow the match for me. I thought it was a really good match. Kev, what do you think about the match and what we've kind of been saying?
Yeah, I agree. I think there were sloppy moments in what was a good match, not the other way around. I don't think it was like I don't think there were good moments in a sloppy match.
Yeah.
I really liked a lot. I just really liked like I like all three of these women. I mean, Io. I know you'll say it, and I'll just sort of sit here and like nod my head. Io is like one of the best wrestlers on the planet, bar none. And for that matter, so is Rhea and so is Charlotte. Like they're
Yeah.
all just world class competitors. And no matter, and yeah, obviously you're not gonna have that great chemistry every time with every single person, but it wasn't like it didn't take me out of the match. It
No.
didn't take them. Didn't take. I don't think it took the match down that much. I mean,
Yeah.
it could have been better maybe, but I think there were still some great spots. EO off of the house, the aforementioned house that we were in, is gonna be one that I remember for a long time. And honestly, I don't know why I didn't think of it, considering that the set was a house, but I never thought, wow, someone's gonna jump off of that until I saw it. And then
Yeah.
at the end, Io, I thought Io knocked Rhea out
Me
cold
too.
with that moon.
She landed right in the
Landed
head.
very high. Yeah, landed very high, and then God, I just it was only a matter of time before Io held some sort of gold in this company. She's just too good to be ignored and to be like a second fiddle to anybody.
Oh
I
yeah.
I love the streamers at the end. I thought that was a very nice touch because this is a huge moment. No
Yeah.
matter what you think, like this is a world class competitor getting her first taste of gold in the WWE, the biggest company in the world. It was great, and I'm glad that as much as I would have loved like a real crowd, I think it's kind of cool that she won it in front of all of her NXT uh
Peers.
cohorts and all of her friends and all these
Yeah.
people that have been like alongside her. I think that's kind of touching.
Yeah, no, I liked it. The crowd were very lively for this match. I liked the finish as well. I was like, oh, is Rhea all right? Because she just got moonsonted on her face, so I hope she's all right. But cool moment, the streamers, everything. It just made me smile. I was like, yes, Io, you've done it. You're finally the NXT Women's Champion. Now, I guess the $1 million question is, what happens next? Queen, you kind of said you have a little bit of like a thing of where this kind of goes. I think Charlotte is obvious. I think Charlotte fills the role of Becky Lynch now because Becky's obviously off and starting a family. So there is a void. There is a little bit of a gap. And I think Charlotte may kind of go into that Raw world. Io as champion queen, do we go Io and Rhea? I mean, there's so many people I'd like to see Io work with, but what is next for Io Shirai as champion?
Well, I definitely think Charlotte going to Raw is what they'll likely do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd actually love to see a world where Charlotte hangs out in NXT and fights some of the younger talent.
Charlotte and Tegan, Charlotte and Dakota, and oh god.
Right. And just kind of hang out there for a little, because I'd like to see the women's roster on Raw have a moment without Becky or Charlotte. That's unique. And I'd like to see it. I don't think we will see it, but I think it would be really cool. Anywho, for Io, I feel like the Io Rhea feud is built in. That's how kind of we get Rhea back on her little momentum as we move forward here, because I feel like her momentum was just stopped so hard when she lost to Charlotte, and then obviously COVID and all those things. But I'd like to see that. There are a lot of people that Io could work with. It would be really fun. But I think, Mia and Candice are going to be busy together. And the other women aren't quite in the upper echelon area as of right now. So I really think they have a lot of building to do. We're in a kind of little bit of a transition phase for NXT.
We are,
and that's
aren't we?
it's not a bad
I like
thing.
that though, because it's exciting, because it's almost like, and I don't mean this is a disrespectful thing to Rhea, but it's almost like we can stall with Rhea and have Rhea and Io kind of work together for a little while so we can get Tegan ready, or we can get Dakota ready, or we can get whoever they want to get ready, they can get ready and they have the right amount of time instead of just thrusting someone straight into Io.
Right.
So I'm into that. I'm into Io as champion. I'm just into it a lot, and I think it's going to be the start of a nice reign as champion. Kevin, what do you think the next move is with Io?
I mean, I think you guys are I think you guys are pretty much spot on. I think Rhea's obviously got unfinished business, and then there's so many names. There's so many names you can throw out there. And yeah, it is a matter of, are they ready? Are they at that top rung of the ladder yet? But I think it's going to be cool when like 4 or 5 different women all reach the top of the ladder at the same time, because then it's just like it's a spoil of riches. You have so many different ways they can go. Io Tegan, Io Dakota, Io Mia, Io Candice, Io Shotzi, and then you're gonna have more talent coming up behind them to fill that level on the ladder, and it's just gonna be so much fun to see how far they go with Io. There's this could be, she could be one and done. She could have a reign for a year. We don't know, because there's so much talent there. They could do so many different things.
Yeah, there's the options. I'm just excited. I'm excited. I'm just smiling. I don't know if you can. Sometimes you can hear a smile, and I'm smiling that Io is champion. I'm very much excited.
I can't hear your smile.
I'm so excited about it.
I'm so
I love
happy.
It.
I'm so happy for her, and I'm just so happy for that division. It's my favorite thing in wrestling. I'm just, it's just gonna, yes, I'm just here for it. All right, overall thoughts, Queenie. How'd you feel about Takeover in your house?
I thought it was actually pretty good. It's not my favorite NXT.
No.
I don't even think it'll be in my top 10, but it was really fun. It had great moments, and I never, ever like to talk about Sam Roberts, but he did say something in the pre-show that I liked a lot. He said that we could be approaching a new golden age for NXT. And for me, I don't know if it's going to be a golden age, but what I will say is I'm very interested in the transition period that we just were mentioning, talking about the women, but the men are doing the same thing.
Yep.
Eventually Adam Cole is going to lose that championship. Eventually he will move somewhere. Maybe Dream is going to move somewhere. Maybe even Keith Lee at some point. So I feel like they have a lot of building to do, and they have a crazy roster on both sides to do it with. The future of NXT, I feel like, is really bright, and I think it's going to be fun. It's just going to be different.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm excited. I like that transitional time within like that. You look in eras, and it's not just like we went from, say, the Attitude Era straight into the Ruthless Aggression Era. That's not how things happen. There's a little bit of a time in between where it's like we're building other stars and, whatever it may be. And I think that's what NXT's in. You kind of mentioned Adam Cole is eventually going to lose that championship. That's what happens when you win a title. You eventually lose it. He's had an incredible run. But someone's going to beat him, and then that kind of ushers in that new era, and we kind of keep the bus going. So I'm excited. I really did enjoy the show too. I thought it was really good, and I liked the kind of roller coaster we went on. Like, it didn't just stay at one level. There was peaks and valleys. Kevin, overall thoughts on the show?
Very good show. And obviously when it comes to NXT Takeover, it's like you could basically pencil it in as a really, really good show. But with this one, with everything going on in the world, with COVID and with everything, and just the unrest and everything going on, it was almost like a different set of expectations were placed on this show. Like it needed to be something different, It needed to be more than just like a good wrestling show. It needed to be a distraction of sorts, and it definitely was. It was really. I think it did what it needed to do as good as it could have done it. It's not going to be like, you're not going to hold it up there with like the greatest takeovers in history. I agree with Queen. I don't think it might not be. It probably won't be in my top 10 down the road when I sit down and rate all the takeovers, but. That just speaks to how good these shows always are. That this was a great show, one of the best shows you'll see this year. But like, it might not scratch the surface of takeovers that have truly reached like the peak of the business.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. I'm very much. I enjoyed the show. It was a good show. It was just a good show. Well, that kind of brings us to the end of NXT Takeover in Your House recap. I guess we're a week from another show. Backlash is this time next week, so we're just in that zone of shows. Overall, good time. I had good time chatting with you, Queen, and you, Kevin, of course. So, Queenie, put yourself over. What have you got coming up? Where can we find you? You know the drill. Do that kind of stuff.
Well, I appreciate that very much, but actually what I'd like to say is instead of what's going on for my show, I would love to say go to the pinned tweet on my Twitter, which is at the Queen of NE, and the pinned tweet is how you can help the movement for hashtag Black Lives Matter. Silence is compliance. So if you can do anything, it doesn't even have to be monetarily. You can sign petitions or peacefully protest. It would be vastly appreciated.
Sign petitions, call your congressman, your representatives.
Yes.
There's so much we could do, and there's so much we still have to do. Like we've just scratched the surface of this whole movement and this whole idea of systemic racism and police brutality, and we can't give up now because we're 2 weeks removed from a senseless murder, one in a long line of senseless murders. The fight's just getting started. You just have to keep pushing and just keep doing everything you can to help. I respect the hell out of that, Queen. I really do. And it's been a crazy time here, but it's been really, really good to see so many people. And this is a wrestling show, so many people in wrestling stepping up and speaking out and helping the cause. It has been good to see.
Yeah, as someone who has been very I don't know how to say this in the right way. A lot of people had a little bit of originally when this was coming out, and I was kind of posting what I was posting in support of all this, the same as you are, Queen, the same as you are, Kevin, just kind of trying to help in any way I can. A lot of people saying, this is not your issue because you're not from America. I want to talk to people that are listening to me right now that are my international friends, okay? Whether you're from Australia, the UK, anywhere that isn't in the States, okay? And to think that this isn't happening in your own country is just wrong. It's this is not just an American issue. This is an issue of the whole world. I think that people need to understand that in 2020, we haven't progressed as a society as much as what people would like to believe. And I think, for one, racism is not a debate for me. Racism is not something that you can argue with me upon. Racism is racism. And in the world right now, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of good things that are going on to combat it, but this is not a trend. This is not just something that goes on for a week and then we move on as the world to something else. This has been going on for generations and generations and generations. And if we don't do something now to do something, it's going to continue to go for future generations and generations and generations. And I think what we need to do right now is that we are realizing that we're in a time where I didn't know this as much as until it's become to my attention that because of the color of my skin, I have privilege. And listening is something that more white people need to do, is listen. Stand beside, not in front of. Do not control this narrative. You need to stand beside the black community and help in any way that you see fit, whether it's peacefully protesting, whether it's signing petitions, whether it's posting something on your social media. Silence is not okay in this situation because silence makes it go away in the sense of going away because it's just tucked under the rug. Don't let this be swept under the rug. Just stand beside, support in any way you can. As someone who has been posting a lot of that on social media, I know it's only a very small scale, but it's something, and we need to continue to do that in this world right now. Don't let this become a problem. Let this become a problem of the past. Let's not make this become a problem of the future. What's going on in the world and what's happened for a long time is not okay, and we need to stand beside one another and do what we can to stop this. So for international friends, yes, this is the part where we cannot control. American friends that are listening right now, in November, you have the opportunity to vote. I'm not going to go and preach and tell you who to vote for, but right now, your vote is more important than ever. So make sure you do vote. coming from a country that I live in where it's compulsory to vote, I don't have that option not to vote. Make sure you do the right thing and you vote in November. Queen, Kevin, you both live in the States. I'm sure you'd both agree that voting is very important, especially right now.
It's paramount and it's super easy. It takes 2 minutes to register to vote. I have links for that too, should you need them, by state.
DM Queen. She will happily provide you with the links you need to vote. That's the part that I'm not entirely sure on what to do because I don't know at that stage. But to my international friends, I'm speaking from someone who does not live in the United States. It is not just a problem in the United States. In Australia alone, the Aboriginal and Indigenous community is also getting a lot of this same treatment. I had a conversation with an Aboriginal friend of mine who said, listen, what you're doing is great, but what you need to understand is that when I walk into a store, people look at me like I'm going to steal. When you look into a store, people look at you with a smile. And that's why I don't need to stand in front of that person. I need to stand beside them because we will never understand what that feeling is like, but we can try to listen. And that's what we need to do right now to help. So please just continue to do that. I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation. I think sometimes the uncomfortable, open conversations is what everybody needs to have right now. So thank you for bringing it up, Queen, and thank you for being open on social media and on shows. I think it's very important to not ignore it at the moment because it's not the right thing to do. So on that note, Queenie, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks
you're always welcome on Reverb or any of my 16 shows that I do have. So please just come on any one of them. Our links for mine and Kevin's socials are of course in the description below. I'll throw Queen's links in there as well. So make sure you go to her pinned tweet. You'll see on my Twitter, I've got a lot of stuff as well, or my Facebook or my Instagram, wherever you're kind of going to find me. I'm not going to stop talking about this. I think that's the main thing that we need to get across is that we need to keep talking about it because it's important. So, with much love and everybody, and as Queenie would say, and I think it's very important that we end the show with what Queen says at the end of her shows. Queen, what is something that you usually like to end with, especially in this time?
Please enjoy the rest of your day, and as always, but especially now, please be kind to one another.
Amen.
Peace out, everyone.